I've been posting on 2 YouTube channels for about 2 years now, and I figured that today's video was the perfect concept for a collaboration video because I am starting my first ever reading journal today. Now, if you are familiar with my bullet journaling channel, Mingo's Studio, you know that I have made many a reading journal video before, and usually I'm making a setup because I want to, give you guys some inspiration, or I'm making a monthly wrap-up in my regular bullet journal. But I've had this square notebook from T. Fossey, which is unsponsored by the way, but it is absolutely stunning, and I've been wanting to find a reason to use it. And recently, specifically because everyone has been making their 2026 reading journal videos over the past couple of months, I've just had a craving to start a reading journal, and I knew that I wanted to do it in a way that would best fit my own needs, my own lifestyle, my own journaling habits, but I wanted to show it to both of my audiences, my bullet journaling channel girlies, and also those who follow me on my reading and vlogging channel. I know there are quite a few of you who actually do follow both channels, but if you were not aware, and this is 100% a self-plug, if you only follow one of my channels, you should definitely go and subscribe to the other because, not to toot my own horn, but I'm good at reading and art. Anyways, but yeah, so after multiple years of making just random reading journal wrap-up spreads and multiple bullet journals, I decided that 2026 was going to be my year and I wanted to make a journal. Now, you may notice that although I'm going to be doing my monthly wrap-ups from January to March in today's video, I'm not doing like an intro to the year spread or anything like that. I did make some reading journal related spreads in my own personal 2026 bullet journal. Like in the beginning, I did some spreads for my diversity challenge. I'm doing monthly wrap-ups, or I was doing monthly wrap-ups in that journal as well. So I didn't want to like do everything twice and duplicate it in this journal. What I did was I left a cover page and one more empty spread before I started making my January spread. So I might go in and add just, a general cover page and other 2026 goals, and I maybe will mention my diversity challenge there briefly. I don't want to make this entire journal 2026 either though. I think I'm going to continue using this journal for multiple years simply because there's just a lot of pages in it. So it would more be like the introduction to the 2026 section, and then when I get to next year, I will just continue using the same journal. But all of that to say, this isn't going to be like a huge reading journal introduction setup. This is more like me filling in my spreads that I have missed over the past few months for January through March, and then hopefully after this I will be able to do monthly or almost monthly updates when I have my reading journal spreads finalized. So if you're ready for that, I hope that you guys like this video. I'm very excited about it, and I'm also very excited to try this new format. I've used square notebooks like twice before, and both of them were just like testing them for videos, but this one, like I said, is gorgeous, and so I thought that it was perfect for like a storybook vibe. Although I am so accustomed to A5 size journals, which is the size of my normal bullet journal, I decided to use the square one for reading journaling, which I honestly think is a trend in the industry. A lot of people use square notebooks for reading journals. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm joining the trend as well. It does give you a little bit more room to write about your books and things like that, which, speaking of, let's kind of get into what I'm actually going to be using this journal for, because like I said, I don't want to overload myself and make spreads that aren't going to fit my own lifestyle, right? So my current plan is to make a monthly overview spread just like this one for every single month in the year. So the spread will include some basic statistics about my reading. Depending on how much room I have, I can add more or less graphs and charts and things like that. And then also a small little box for every single book that I read that month, at least to write down my rating and the genre, if not to also write down a little bit about what it was about, or a quote, or what I wrote on my Goodreads review, something like that. Now again, I'm not trying to double dip and make things like copy and paste everywhere, because I do have Goodreads and Storygraph, which are apps that I track my books on and write reviews on there and stuff like that. I obviously have my reading channel where I post videos and talk about my books as well. So when I journal in here, I'm not trying to write an entire like spread's worth of information about each book. I'm just gonna literally give myself space for maybe like 1 or 2 bullets just to have a physical representation of my reading, because I say this with my bullet journal all the time, but having a little time capsule in a journal and physically writing down about what you're reading or just what you're doing with your life in general is something that's very special to me. So that's why I wanted to start it, but I'm not trying to overwhelm myself. I'm allowing myself to write a couple things, but not anything crazy. And then I also want to do specific spreads for my 5-star books, because I feel like the ones that stand out to me from a year are the ones I of course rated 5 stars, and the ones that I like yap and yap about and I'm just absolutely obsessed over. And when I obsess over something, I love to journal about it or scrapbook. Especially when I was younger, I used to make so many like K-pop journaling spreads, for example, when I was like really into my K-pop era, which by the way, ever since Aidang came out from BTS, I am back in my era, okay? But that's like a topic for another video. All of that being said, I want to like commemorate my love for my favorite books in this journal as well and give them separate spreads. But I see these journalists all the time put pictures in the corner of the page and then leave the rest of it completely blank for them to fill it in with words. And this is something that I've actually done for myself in the past too, for other reading journal setups that I've done in my random extra journals and things like that. Like I have written, you know, paragraphs worth about a book just to give you guys an idea of what a spread could look like. But in theory, or I guess not in theory, in action, I don't really want to be forcing myself to write that much when sometimes it's hard to even like explain my feelings about a book in a video when I'm speaking. So what I decided to do was just collage, you know? My favorite book from the year so far, which you're well aware of if you follow me on my booktube channel, is Empire of the Vampire. This book has literally changed my life. I'm on book 2 right now. It is so incredible. And so, for example, with this particular spread, I just looked up like vampire aesthetic on Pinterest or like red moon pictures. I printed the cover of the book. I also printed some artwork because this particular book actually has artwork inside of it. So I found some of those on Pinterest, the map inside of this book, things like that. And I just cut and pasted them into this spread with a bunch of stamps, washi tape, things like that. And overall, the spread is, I wouldn't say minimalistic because there's a lot going on, but the margins are really big, which is what I really like because it's about the book, it shows my love for the book, but it doesn't require me to like come up with paragraphs worth of information about the book to record here when I have that videoed on my channel or written on like Goodreads and Storygraph. Now what I did do was I wrote down, or I copied basically, a couple of my favorite quotes from this book and I annotated them with like a red pen as well. I'm gonna do that with all of the 5-star spreads that I'm making in today's video. Like right now we're on the next one, which is Heated Rivalry, which was a reread for me because I read that book for the first time in December, but then I reread it in January, which tells you how much I'm obsessed with these characters, this show, this book, this series, literally everything. HR is my bread and butter. I'm obsessed with them so much. So this was also such a fun spread to make and find little random like light blue and red scrapbooking bits from my collection to really fill out and fluff up this spread. But again, I'm not trying to overwhelm myself by writing a bunch. I'm just going to copy a couple of quotes, which it was really hard to pick my favorite quotes from this book because there are so many, but it was just like such a fun and therapeutic time getting to journal about my babies and not have to stress so much about what I'm going to write. I feel like I'm talking in circles a little bit. You get it. Okay, let's move on. So I did just want to say as well, I'm not really talking specifically about every single book that I read in 2026 so far in this particular video. I mean, in January, I read 6 books, but I only rated 2 5 stars, which honestly is really good. That's like 33% were 5 stars, but I still like don't want to go into depth about every single book. But if you want to hear more about literally every single book that I've read this year so far, you're in luck because I just posted that video on my booktube channel 2 days ago. So I will have that video linked down below. For my girlies who are already subscribed over there, I'm sure you've already seen like that video pop up in your subscription box. I talked for like 35 minutes about the 18 books that I've read from January to March, so you will hear like all of my in detail thoughts. And I also have reading vlogs for a bunch of these books. I think I have reading vlogs for like 14 of the 18 on that channel. Trust me when I say, if you like to read and you don't follow me over there, you definitely should, because I am posting so much. Honestly, I post more over there at this point than I do on my bullet journaling channel. Anyway, but all that to say, I'm not going to go into depth about every book in today's video, but you can definitely hear more over there. So now we're going to move on to February. This is where I'm going to show you a couple of different variations that I'm trying out for my monthly overview spread ideas. I looked up some inspiration on Pinterest. I referenced back to my personal older videos that I've made about reading journaling before, and I decided that I wanted to create, of course, like boxes for every single one of my books and then a space for the statistics, but I wanted to move them around every spread if possible, so it wasn't the exact same spread copy and paste every single month, you know? So in this video, I'm trying 3 different similar but distinctive layouts. So partially because I wanted to change the layout and partially because I had 5 books read in February, not 6, I decided to do more of a vertical layout this time with the 5 columns surrounding the section that has my statistics. And then I usually just leave a bit of blank space as well to do my scrapbooking. Now, if you didn't notice, when I did January's theme, it was all lavendery purple. And for February, I'm going to be doing something more pink, and then spoiler, but for March, I'm going to be doing something a little more yellow. This is because whenever I was doing 3 setups at once, didn't really want to think of a bunch of different scrapbooking like themes or ideas. So I just took the same color palettes that I used for my bullet journaling themes during the year so far, which were like castles for January, disco balls for February, and then peonies, yellow peonies for March. So I'm just using those exact same like markers and color palettes to fill in my rejournaling spreads, but I'm going to be using like stickers and stuff to decorate. And then in the future, hopefully I'll be able to think of like more, I don't know, creative, colorful ideas that are distinctive from my usual bullet journaling setups as well. It was just easier to just, you know, recreate those similar color palettes this time. Another thing that I was prioritizing here was going relatively simple with the scrapbooking. I mean, I was pulling out all of my sticker collections and ephemera and trying to find matching, you know, pieces to go together for all of these spreads. This one, I loved the color palettes of the stickers all together, but I think whenever I used the markers to fill in the pie charts, it became a little bit disjointed. However, it's not, you know, that crazy. That being said though, I have seen some insanely gorgeous reading journaling spreads on like Pinterest and Instagram where people completely cover their journal with like scrapbooks and ephemera and papers and washi tapes and newspaper clippings and things like that, to the point where you can barely even see the white paper behind all of the layering and doodling and writing and things like that. I love those ideas, but personally it's not very sustainable for me, because if I'm going to be doing this reading journal, I'm not going to be journaling like every day. I'm going to be doing wrap-ups at the end of every month or every 2 months. And so to keep things consistent and feasible for me, I wanted to make sure that they were decorated and beautiful, but not over the top and overly done, because sometimes I love to sit and scrapbook for hours and sometimes I just want to do something simple. And so this kind of met in the middle with like colorful pie charts and graphs and then stickers and ephemera and things like that, but nothing too crazy. Now, I'm in every single box writing the rating that I gave each book with like stars, and I also wrote the genre of every book in January, but you may have noticed that most of the boxes were kept empty, and that's because if I honestly sat down and filled in all of these boxes, half of this video would just be me scribbling. So I decided to do that stuff off camera, but it again will be filled in with things that I probably already wrote on Goodreads, like just a couple of sentences about each book, nothing too crazy. I just figured for the sake of the length of today's video, I probably should cut that out. But in future videos, if you want me to show you what I'm writing and maybe how I'm filling in every single box, let me know and I will include that in the final cut of the video. So now we're moving on to March. Like I said, this is more of a yellowy theme to match what I did in my regular bullet journal for March. And so far in the year, this was the month that I read the most because I actually finished 7 books in March. My goal this year is to read 60 books. I usually read about 50 to 75. Last year I actually read over 80, but I'm not trying to push myself to do anything too crazy this year, so my official reading goal is 60, but as of right now I am on track to surpass that, so we will just have to see what happens when the year ends. But I love tracking things like numbers and statistics with my reading. For some reason it is the most satisfying thing for me. That's why I wanted to include a couple of pie graphs and charts and things like that to mark my statistics in every single wrap-up page here. Particularly on this page, my 2 pie charts are showing the page count of my books, so like what percent were over 500 pages and what percent were between 300 and 499. And then I also have a different pie chart for whether I read the book physically or digitally, and in my brain digital includes Kindle or audiobook, and then physically means that I have the physical copy of the book. And then the bar graph is accumulating all the different ratings that I gave every single month. So for example, this month I gave 2 books 5 stars, 1 book 4.5, 2 books 4 stars, etc, etc, etc. So that's what the graph is as well. You would be surprised how much time I personally spend, like my free time, on Goodreads and Storygraph, which are my book tracking apps, which by the way, if you want to follow me on those apps, I do have them linked down below. You can go check those out there. However, it is like insane because number one, Storygraph, I love the statistics that they provide, even with the free version. By the way, this is not at all sponsored, but that's how I got the data for these graphs and charts, is just by copying off of their app, because they do a lot of tracking for you, which is so interesting. But then for Goodreads, I know that the platform has a lot of issues with it being a little bit outdated and stuff like that, but because it is so old, there is just years, almost decades even, of reviews and ratings and people's opinions on books. And so before, during, and after reading every single book, I'm probably always scrolling through Goodreads reviews. I'm looking at discussion boards and pages. I'm looking at my own shelves and just like scrolling through my want to read list and looking at reviews and ratings, all non-spoiler of course, but just like, I don't know, I honestly could spend just as much time scrolling on Goodreads as I probably do Instagram. Like, I think that's probably an exaggeration, but not by much. Something about like statistics and reviews and just cataloging your books is so satisfying to me. And that's why I was really excited to finally start a reading journal, because it's honestly just been a long time coming, because I love documenting things like this. Now, in this particular March wrap-up page, I have a couple of cutouts from this clear washi tape that I have with these florals on it, and I realized that in the video you can see that the cutout around each of these flower bouquets is not as accurate as I would have liked it to be. The washi tape background is clear, however you can definitely tell where the scissors cut, and it is not close to the end of the flowers or the leaves. Please just like give me a little bit of grace. It was like the 4th hour of filming. I was losing sunlight. I was ready to kind of wrap this up, and so I didn't cut super close to each of these flowers, but if you blur your eyes, you can't even tell that it's there. And maybe before I even mention it, you couldn't tell it was there, which is honestly ideal for me personally. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I still like it anyway because it gives like the yellow orange floral aesthetic and it makes the spread look more busy and alive than it would have without it. I was realizing when doing this spread that I am lacking in yellow and orange ephemera, and I need to really like up my game and maybe do a little bit of sticker shopping. So if you actually have any sticker shops like on Etsy or ones that ship to the US that, like, not big companies, I'm talking about like smaller brands who do fun stickers and ephemera, things like that, definitely comment them below. I would love to go and browse their collections. My favorite sticker company is probably sticky.co or Sticky Club, one of the two. They have the most beautiful designs and work with artists on stuff like that, but I haven't gotten an order from them in a long time, so maybe it's about time that I go and do a little sticker shopping. Alright, so for the last spread in today's video, we're doing another page of 5-star reads. You may have noticed, but in February I didn't actually have any 5-star reads, which is why we kind of skipped this part for February. I could have hypothetically done it for like my 4.5s or 4 stars, but I really want to leave these spreads for my 5-star standouts because I'm very particular about my 5 stars. I really have to get that gut feeling if I rate a book that highly, and I feel that only they deserve an entire spread dedicated to them. So on the left here we have The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, which was my first book by this author, and it was so incredible. I said it in my reading vlog, but I was actually trying to find a 5-star book when I read this book, and at first I read this book in that vlog and I gave it 4.5 stars. It was like so close to perfect for me, but it just didn't quite hit that 5-star feeling. However, I spent a couple of days after the vlog ended and I was still thinking about this book and the characters and the writing like consistently days after, to the point where I went in and re-annotated this book. Like I reread it and I underlined and highlighted all of my favorite quotes throughout this book, even though I just finished it like a couple of days before. And after I did that, I realized that my obsession was too deep and I truly did think that this book deserved a 5-star rating. So I bumped it up after the vlog, which was kind of funny, but I stand by it now. I'm obsessed with this book and I cannot wait for the sequel to finally come out in, I think it's September or October that it comes out, and I'm very hyped for that. It was really fun to look up fan art for this particular couple as well on Pinterest. There are a lot of lovely artists who like make fan art for these couples, but the one in the top center, like the lavender picture of Rory and Sybil, it's just so beautiful and I knew it had to be included in this spread. And I also, used some of my purpley stickers and I printed out a couple of like blue colorful backgrounds that honestly have nothing to do with the book itself, but when it all is combined into one scrapbooking spread together, the aesthetics kind of meld. And I really think it's so satisfying actually to have like one page in one heavy color and vibe aesthetic. Like everything works together on this one page, and then the spread next to it can be completely different but also just as dedicated to its own individual aesthetic. Like the same thing happened with the vampire and heated rivalry spread. Like on the left, it was dark, it was moody, it was bloody, and on the right, it was like happier, fun colors. There's like a Spider-Man sticker on that spread. Like each spread is its own aesthetic, and I love that they can just sit next to each other and just at first glance, you know exactly what book I'm talking about for each of these spreads because of all of the color palettes matching the covers of each book. Something about that just like tickles my brain just perfectly. So yeah, on the right here, we have Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, which is my last 5-star of the year so far. We're definitely open to many more before the year ends. And this one was honestly very easy to find pictures for because the plot, or one of the main characters, is an art thief, and so they talk about art quite frequently. And one of the quotes that I wrote on the bottom here is talking about a woman from this book, and he's describing her like artwork. And so I have like the Botticelli clamshell, Monet's water lilies, and the Hand of God artwork. I printed all 3 of those out to match this quote, and it just happened to fit perfectly in this little section. So yeah, did a little bit of annotating, and with that, we are finally complete. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Whatever subscriber you are, whether it's on my book channel or my bullet journaling channel, I'm so happy you're here, and I hope that you loved this video. Again, I'm hoping to do many more reading journal spreads in the future in this journal. We are just getting started, and I'm very happy to finally be joining my reading journal book besties over here with this kind of content. And comment below what your favorite book from the year has been so far if you are a reader. All right, I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in a new video.